When it comes to nylon string guitar playing, we have a lot of work that we can do in the right hand, a lot of things to learn, and I think the three most essential techniques are rasgueo, arpeggio, and picado. The most fun songs to play are the ones that combine all those techniques together, sometimes really back to back, and that's tough to do. So in this lesson, I want to give you a really fun and short exercise where we can work on combining those techniques and work on some great stuff for the left hand. Okay, if you're unfamiliar with any of these terms, rasgueo is when we hit our nail against a string. There's all kinds of ways to do it. Even this, a downstroke with my index finger, is a rasgueo. But what we're going to do here is this. One of the most important rasgueos of all time, the four stroke, going down with my pinky, down with the ring, down with the middle, down with the index. For arpeggios, we might have more than one way to define that word. If you were soloing for guitar, we might learn arpeggios like this, which is just every single note in a chord, one note after the other in order. But for Spanish guitar, nylon string guitar technique, we're talking about holding a chord in the left hand and doing this kind of technique, where our thumb might play a rest stroke, doesn't have to though, and then we play free strokes with these fingers, generally speaking. That is an arpeggio. And picado is kind of reserved for those single note melody phrases where we play index and middle rest strokes. Okay, the intention of this exercise is to have something that sounds good, that's fun to play. It's not just open strings. We're not just working solely on the techniques individually, but combining them together into something that makes musical sense and I think is fun to play. And we're going to do something in the left hand that's very important as well coming up. Okay, we're going to play an A minor chord and then a D minor chord, E7, and then back to A minor. This is going to be a rumba in 4/4 time. This is a 1-4-5 chord progression. 1. This is called the 4, the 5, and back to the 1. Okay, here's what we're doing. Hold the A minor chord, do a thumb rest stroke, and then play down with your pinky, down with your ring finger, down with your middle, down with your index, like this. So we're going. Now I threw my thumb off so I can come up. We're essentially playing a rumba pattern here. Sit your thumb on the 6th string and up, down, up. So I have many videos where I talk about how to play a rumba. You can refer to those if you like, but here's all that's happening. That's the first measure. Now we want to work on the next technique, which is arpeggio. We go to D minor and we play this arpeggio. Now there's more than just an arpeggio there. As you can see, I'm playing thumb, index, middle, ring, then pulling off, and then returning that arpeggio, and then landing there. These are 8th notes in 4/4 times. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's always good if we can involve something in the left hand other than just holding a chord, and I think pull-offs are harder than hammer-ons, so we might as well do that. For the measure of E7, instead of playing E7, we're going to play this triplet picado phrase. Now those 3 chords are 1-4-5, that's an odd number, right? There's 3 chords. Very often we'll come back to the 1 on the last measure because our brains like the symmetry of the even number of measures. So on this final measure, we just landed here on an A note. We're going to play an A minor chord, slap the strings like this, and then a fleshy downstroke with your thumb. That's a really cool thing that is kind of a more modern flamenco thing that you hear a lot of modern flamenco players do. I don't know who came up with that. I would love to know, because every time I talk to some great flamenco player, I ask them about that. Nobody knows. I think it started in the 80s. Really cool technique, I think. So I'm going to go down with my index finger and immediately kill it, and you can even slap the strings at the same time, and then down with the thumb. Before I talk about this left hand thing, let me play the whole thing. Obviously a lot of stuff going on there. You got to practice it really slow, and you can simplify a lot of these things. But to get to the left hand thing I was talking about, one of the most important things, I know I'm talking about the right hand mostly here, but one of the most important exercises you ever could do for any style of guitar, if you're playing metal with a pick, fingerstyle, whatever, is this guy right here. Notice I'm using picado to do this in the right hand. It doesn't have to be that, it could be thumb. Rest strokes or free strokes or anything, or like I said, playing with a pick. So this exercise works out all 4 fingers of the left hand. It's a really great synchronization drill. We should be doing this all the time. I do this every day of my life. Coming backwards is a little bit harder. So I think it's more important to do that direction. In fact, if you just sat around and did this, because you were leading with our weak fingers there, our left hand does not like that, or if you're left-handed, your right hand. So that backwards motion is going to help you more comfortably and more quickly play the other direction, which feels better. So I snuck that into this exercise. So that was kind of a little way to trick you into practicing that. Here it is. If you're new to nylon string guitar and don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out my free workshop where I show you exactly how we should be moving from our joints and how we can play efficiently. And that is the launch pad for my main course, The Ultimate Nylon String Guitar Guide. Check it out at theversatileguitarist.com. Okay, by far one of the hardest things to do is to seamlessly combine techniques together. But like I said, that's when we have the most fun. I think the most fun things to play go, like for example, rasgueo, picado over and over. I could come up with a million examples. And so there's no wiggle room there. We got to get right into it. So when you practice techniques like this or combining techniques, we want to find a spot where we can play all of our right hand techniques with the least amount of moving that we can in the right hand. So when we do a rasgueo, we want to do that. And then notice how when I play this picado here, my hand didn't move. I bet your right hand wants to go up like this. And we can do that if we're playing a big long phrase like this and it's only picado and there's nothing right after it. But we don't have the luxury most of the time to do that. So we want to stay in one spot, and believe it or not, you don't have to have your arm go to the ceiling to play this picado technique. If your nails are too long, make them shorter so that we don't get hung on the string when we stay close to the floor like my hand is right now. So putting these techniques back to back with no space in between is a really great exercise, but it's hard. So if you're having trouble with that as you try to play this, let's give ourselves a little more breathing room at the end of each measure. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of doing that last upstroke, I just let it ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it gives me a little more time to think, a little more brain space to kind of think about getting to the next chord. I did the same thing there. Instead of an eighth note at the end of the measure, play a quarter note, and that gives us the and of 4 to kind of prepare for the next part. And we have our triplets. Now this one has built into it a little breathing room. That's an entire beat, a quarter note, and then we play our... And if the triplet picado thing is too fast for you, instead of playing eighth note triplets, which are 3 times per beat, the beat divided into 3 parts, play just regular eighth notes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. That still sounds great. So again, here's the whole thing. As you get better at these techniques and combining them together, you should be working on ways you can do this yourself. Like think about what we just did, but do it in another key, in the key of E minor. E minor would be the 1, A minor would be the 4, B7 would be the 5, and in Spanish guitar, we see those chords all the time in that order, very often. I just made that up, but you get the point. So Spanish guitar playing is very right hand intensive, but of course we are only as good as our left hand. There's a book though that you should have called Pumping Nylon. If you don't have that book, get it. And in this video, I'm going to show you what I think are the 3 most important exercises for the left hand from that book.